Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to a very impromptu video. Could be as long as a podcast, I'm not sure. Got to get some things off my chest about the video game industry. In fact, this was an unplanned video. I had all my videos for the week set up and ready to go live, and then news broke today. I got to pull up my script because I have notes. You know a video's serious when I got notes. But yeah, news broke today that Xbox is laying off 4% of their staff, which doesn't sound like a big number until you realize 4% of their staff is roughly 9,100 employees are losing their job at Microsoft. And that's astonishing. And like the title of this video is going to be, I'll probably figure out a good title, but this is the placeholder right now. Answering to investors is killing the video game industry. And that's kind of what some of these layoffs are. Like the layoffs after the acquisition of Activision, and before that Bethesda, made sense. You buy a company, the two companies merge, you have redundancies. And it just, it doesn't make business sense to have two people doing the job of one person. Kind of thing like that. That's what happens with a lot of mergers. I know I work for a company that has, I haven't left my job. I've kept the same job, but I think I'm on my fifth different company now, maybe even more, without actually being rehired because mergers and acquisitions and new names and things like that. So when things like that happen, there'll be redundancies in HR, administrative assistants, things like that, and people unfortunately get laid off because of that. And so when the Microsoft Activision merger purchase, as well as the Microsoft purchase of Bethesda, that kind of makes business sense. It's we don't need two people doing this job that one person can easily do, kind of thing like that. The opposite of what I'm doing right now. So many people have retired. I am doing the job of 4 people right now, and for the same pay. It sucks. So if you wanted to give me a super thanks or convince your friends to subscribe to this channel so we can get over to 1,000 so I can make a little extra scratch on these videos, that'd be awesome. Or you can click on my associate links. That's a quick plug for money, but I'm just kidding. I'm doing okay. It's just annoying when you're constantly being pulled in 30 different directions to do 30 different things that you didn't have to used to do, and you get paid the same money. I know probably a lot of people can relate to that. But yeah, back to the whole industry being killed by investors. And it's kind of a weird way to approach this because it's one of those things that I invest in a lot of these companies. I have stock in Microsoft, I have stock in Sony, I've got stock in Nintendo, among other companies like Google and Costco, Home Depot, things like that. And I have these investments that I have, these are for the long term. These aren't I'm day trading. It's okay, my stock's up a couple dollars, sell. Oh, okay, that stock's gone back down, let me buy it cheaper. No, I don't do that. I buy when I can, and I kind of look at it because if something's tanking, because I will gamble every once in a while. I'll invest some money in something that's trading high and then try to sell at a high note and get out. But I would say 99% of my stock holdings are for long term, and that's what I have in Microsoft. So I'm not the investor that Microsoft is trying to appease here, or Nintendo when I talk about them in a second. The problem with investing in gaming is these CEOs, these board of directors, they're not gamers. Probably a lot of them have never played a video game in their life. They are put in charge of a company to make money for the company, and more importantly, make money for the investors, especially the investors who have an S-ton of stock invested in the company. And what does that mean? Well, the video game industry, especially since COVID, has been on a bit of a high. It's gone back down, but still up. We still have record sales. We're still doing record numbers in the gaming industry and things like that. But when you're talking to investors, you can never have enough. Investors don't want to see their stock go up $1. They want to see it go up $1.10, $1.15, something like that. And you can only sell so much at a time and produce so much at a time to make that stock go up. So what's one way of getting your stock price to go up to be more profitable? And that's cutting jobs. And I've said this before. I said this a lot with Doge and them going through the federal government with a hatchet. If your way to make more money or save more money is cutting jobs, then your business plan is all wrong. Because there's always a way to increase profits without letting people go. Because the downside is a lot of times when you let people go, you find it's a very short-term fix. Like, okay, we cut this many people, we cut 9,100 people. That's going to make the price tick up this much more. But the sad thing is, a month, 2 months, 3 months down the road, it's like, oh shit, that person we let go during that big layoff, we kind of need that person back. So you got to go get them back. And generally speaking, when you've let someone go, especially if they found work after that, it's going to cost you more money to bring them back. So therefore, you've made like a short-term investment that hurts you long-term, kind of thing like that. And that's always the wrong way to do business. Now, a company like Microsoft, they can make those follies for the short term, because I don't like to use the word too big to fail, but Microsoft is at that point where it is too big to fail, kind of thing like that. It would take a massive, just like, change of direction in the computer gaming electronics market for Microsoft to fall off a cliff. So in a sense, they are kind of too big to fail. But in that sense, one would think like, yeah, you're such a big, powerful, multi-trillion-dollar company, you can keep these people on. And the humanitarian would say yes. The board of the directors, who answers to the stockholders, and the more shares you have, the more votes you get when it comes to electing the board. They want to make those sharks, those whales, happy. And how do they make them happy? That they can continue seeing their stock ticker go up, 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 even if it's just a little bit. Even if it's by like a cent or two, as long as it's in the green, they're happy, kind of thing like that. So that's kind of where it's kind of ruining the industry in a sense. And like I said, I'm going to talk about Nintendo and some other stuff in a second. Back when video games were like a niche, was a hobby to like us nerds and things like that, and it wasn't mainstream, where a top selling console would be like a 10 million console sells 10 million. Nowadays, like, games are considered flops if the game doesn't sell 10 million copies, kind of things like that. So and to put in that sense, so it's just kind of like these investors. So it's no longer the enthusiasts who are in charge of these game companies for the most part. Like it used to be back in the day, the people who ran these gaming companies were, developers. They were the people who got into making video games because they liked gaming, they liked technology, and so they were going to do what was best for, the company and technology. Like, they wanted to make money. I'm not saying they didn't want to make all the money that they could, but they're like Satoru Iwata is a perfect example for this. Like, he got into game development because he loved computers and video games. When he became the president of Nintendo, like, even though, Nintendo was already a publicly traded company and stuff like that, he still loved video games. It's that quote by him, like my business card said, I'm a president. In my head, I'm a developer. In my heart, I'm a gamer, kind of thing like that. We don't have that anymore. We don't have it at Nintendo, sadly. We don't have it at Microsoft. Probably don't have it at Sony either. And so it's just one of those things. It's only the small indie companies that we do have people like that. And what's really sad about that is these CEOs, these presidents in charge, they're going to make decisions on behalf of what's best for the investors, not necessarily what's the best for the company, which you're like, that doesn't sound right, but it is, because when you make these short-term decisions for investors to make that stock price tick up in the short term, generally speaking, in the long term, it will hurt you. Like, you'll see a big peak and it'll plateau for a little bit, but when you can't cut any more people, when you can't make any more cuts, you see a big valley because you didn't really plan for the future. You just made these drastic short-term decisions to cut your nose to spite your face, kind of thing like that. So what I'm getting at here is these cuts by Microsoft, they're devastating, man. Like, yeah, you look at the percentage, like it's only 4%, but 9,100 people have lost or are losing their jobs in the coming days. And that just really sucks because the economy is garbage right now. I know a lot of people on the right want to say, oh no, it's just wait, just wait, just wait. Some people can't wait. Some people live paycheck to paycheck. And I know a lot of people on the right also live paycheck to paycheck. So just waiting doesn't always work. And then when you lose your job, that's even worse. Especially if you are at some of these gaming companies, because a lot of them are in high-priced areas where the cost of living is pretty high up there. So not having a job in a high-cost of living area really sucks, kind of thing. Which is why when I went all remote, I moved to an area that was a lower cost of living than when I was at, because the economy was in the shitter, and I knew it wasn't going to get better anytime soon, kind of thing like that. So when I talk about all of this, profits don't matter anymore for the most part, because you see all these companies talking about record profits, but then like a month or two later, they're laying off a bunch of people. It's because there's never enough profits. Back in the day, especially like a niche hobby like video games, when you would have a profitable year, you were popping champagne bottles and stuff like that. There are so many small invested companies like in the game industry. If they profited $50 that year, they spent that $50 at the holiday party for champagne or booze or something like that to celebrate with the employees. Nowadays, like if you profit like $50 million, the investors are like, why wasn't it $100 million? Why wasn't it $200 million and things like that? And that's why these cuts happen even when these companies are reporting record profits, because the board of directors has to answer. Well, the CEO has to answer to the board, and the board has to answer to investors. And the investors who have the most votes want more money from their shares. And so it just becomes this vicious cycle. So it's like every time I see a small business that I like go public, I always cringe a little, because I know it's going to be a completely different company from there on out. They're not going to worry about their customers anymore, to a point where it's like, if we're making money, good, but we need to make more money. Just look at some of your, just look at social media for an example. Like, I was thinking about this the other day with Facebook. Is like, I remember, because I barely get on Facebook anymore, but when I do, I'm bombarded with groups I should join, ads, just shit I don't follow or like is just bombarding me, and I'm not really seeing my friends' posts or anything like that. I'm old enough to where Facebook was just for college kids at one point. That's how old I am. But I'm old enough to remember even when Facebook went like to everybody. It was literally, your feed was just the people you knew. That was it. You click on Facebook, you would just see mom and dad, your cousin Kenny, your buddy Mike. That's all you would see on Facebook. Same with MySpace. Never forget. Same with Twitter. Twitter, you would just see who you followed in your feed. That was it. You would just you'd go on Twitter, and you would just see, you follow the command. Oh, they were the Redskins at the time. You follow the Redskins, you see the Redskins. You follow Nintendo, you see Nintendo. None of this ad bullshit. None of the suggested for you tab garbage. It was just what you were following. But those companies have gone public now, and they need to make money for their investors. And they don't sell you anything, and they try to charge you to be verified and things like that. But you're only going to get so many people sign up for that. So how do you get more money? Ads. And you bombard people with ads, and then they click on the ads. Like one thing I hate is like Amazon's ads on Facebook, because when I am doom scrolling, I'm not immune to that. I'll like go through reels and just watch some of the reels I like, but then I'll click on an Amazon ad thinking it's a reel because they look like reels. Like it's like, oh, this is gonna be a cooking thing. Nope, it's an Amazon ad. Oh, it's gonna be a gardening thing. Nope, Amazon ad. So it's really annoying for all that stuff, kind of thing like that. And that's because they're a public company. They're a publicly traded company, and they need to churn out revenue, and they need to do it the only way they can. And that's kind of what like video game companies are. It's like, and movies for that most part. It's like, that's why we get so many sequels and remakes and remasters, and we hardly get any new things from the big publishers. The indie guys, you're still killing it. I love it. Baltro, still playing a ton of that shit. Sea of Stars, love it. I'm trying to think of some other indie games I'm playing right now. I'm playing more. I'm playing a lot of retro games, mind you, more than anything. But when I do play, newer games, they tend to be from the big AAA publishers, kind of thing like that. So I am part of the problem. Not saying that I'm not, but it's one of those things. Like, they constantly have to churn out more and more profit. It's no longer about hey, we're in the black this year, which means, for those of you who aren't business inclined, when you're in the black, which means, you profited, it doesn't matter how much. It means you paid for everything, like you paid all your employees, you paid for all your inventory and overstock, everything's been paid for, and you got a little left over. That used to be fine, especially in the gaming industry. Like I said, when it was a niche thing, when a lot of these companies weren't public, when they were like privately family owned, developer owned, kind of thing like that, that was fine. Like that was all you needed, was to just, like, really, honestly, breaking even was fine. It used to be at a time, like, because that meant everything was paid for, everyone was paid, and it was fine at that time. And then, like I said, if you finished in the black, no matter how little it was in the black, percentage wise, dollar wise, it's like, we made a profit this year, celebrate. But that's not how it is anymore with investors, with hedge funds and things like that. It's not only killing the video game industry as far as creativity is concerned, jobs are concerned, it's killing the movie industry too, because everything's got to be big budget, everything's got to make more money than the last thing, which is why it's like, I just saw we're getting another Last of Us like remaster. It's a 2-pack coming out with both 1 and 2 for the PS5, and it's like, it almost felt like a joke. Like if it was April 1st, I would have thought it was April Fool's. But that's just how it is, because when you have a proven commodity that makes money, you try to get as much money out of it as possible. And I've made it a point now in my game buying habits, I don't buy deluxe editions. I buy the base game. I enjoy the base game, and if I really enjoy it, I'll go back and play it and maybe buy some DLC if there's like story missions or anything like that. But I don't worry about all the different DLC things anymore, just because, like, I feel like I'm throwing my money away at that point, when you're just giving them your money like that, because that's what they're trying to do. And everyone's mad about Nintendo doing the $80 Mario Kart. Luckily, so far, $80 has not really taken off. I mean, Microsoft is doing it, but I think Microsoft would have been doing it with or without Nintendo, because just about, I would say the majority of Xbox owners are on Game Pass. So they're getting those games for free day one. So they're charging $80 for like the PC users who don't have Game Pass, and for like the PS5 users who want those games. So they got to charge more money so they can make more money, kind of thing like that. Where, if they kept things exclusive, if like Xbox had a better game plan, they would have, they wouldn't be in the situation they are in, which there was an interview with one of the former developers for the original Xbox, and she was talking about how Microsoft is just kind of like selling out the brand of Xbox, like the Asus ROG Ally Xbox, whatever it's called. She feels that's how Xboxes are gonna be from now on. They're just gonna be licensed out to other computer companies. And I said that months ago on this channel, saying those things about the Xbox. It's like, yeah, Xbox might be making their next Xbox, but that will probably be the last in-house Xbox ever made. And I guarantee the next generation, we're not just going to see a Microsoft Xbox, but we're going to see an Xbox made by Asus. We're going to see a Lenovo Xbox. We're going to see a Dell Alienware Xbox. We're going to see all kinds of different computer companies making Xboxes. Shoot, it would be hilarious if we saw the Sony Xbox. That's not going to happen, but that'd be pretty funny if it did. So, another fallout from this sweeping and devastating layoffs by Microsoft today is that the initiative, the game studio that was making the Perfect Dark reboot, has been shut down. Which means, and I don't know how far along the Perfect Dark reboot was on, but it's been being made for about 5 years now. Because I think it was 2019, late 2019, 2020 is when they showed it off for the first time. That's gone. Just out the door, gone. So we're not getting that game. And a lot of people, including myself, I love the Perfect Dark games, even the bad Microsoft ones. We're not getting it. We're not getting another Perfect Dark kind of thing. And that's because of these layoffs. And again, you would like an altruistic $1 trillion company. You would like a company like Microsoft that makes so much money and is so profitable. Again, I'm a shareholder. My stock goes up daily pretty much. The only time Microsoft stock goes down is when Trump does something about tariffs or some stupid shit happens with the US economy affecting electronics. And it always rebounds. Like, it never stays down. So that tells you that Microsoft is just almost infinitely profitable. So they could keep these studios. They could let this game be finished and things like that. And I'm not even lamenting the loss of the game. I'm lamenting the shutdown of the studio and people losing their jobs, seemingly for no reason other than to pad the pockets of million and billionaires a little bit more. Because I go back to Satoru Iwata, and when the Wii U crashed and burned, the board at Nintendo wanted layoffs. They're like, we can't do this. So he took I want to say it was a 50% pay cut. Shigeru Miyamoto did so as well, and other high-up executives at Nintendo took like a 30% pay cut as well to save those jobs. That's a very altruistic, forward-thinking person. And I would like to say, oh, and I know some people are probably like, oh, that's just Japanese culture. No one at Sony would do that. It's just the way Iwata was. He was a leader by true definition of a leader. The man led by example. And he was a true leader in a sense that he knows if the company fails, it fails based on either his ideas or ideas he approved. And that is kind of the thing that I really hate about corporate America, is when products fail, when things fail in corporate America, it's always the little guy who gets fired, and not like pay being deducted from the CEO or the CFO or, COO. Those people, for those who don't know, Chief Executive Officer, Chief Finance Officer, Chief Operating Officer, in case you don't work in business America, kind of thing like that. Those people are the ones making the decisions. Those are the people whose decisions ultimately led to the unprofitable year or slightly less profitable year. Like, that always pisses me off when my stock prices go down or layoffs happen, because a company was projected to make like $100 million in profits, but they only made $99 million in profits. So people lose their jobs, stock price. I was like, what are we doing here? And I'm a capitalist. I don't want you to think I'm some sort of Marxist, communist, socialist kind of thing like that. I'm not any of those. I am full-on capitalist. I believe in the market, and I believe the market dictates. That's why when there was all this Switch 2 uproar, Mario Kart World uproar, I told everyone, I was like, speak with your wallets. And if enough people agree with you, the market will change. A couple problems with that sometimes are people are so obsessed with things, they don't care about prices, or they make it work. Kind of thing like that. But we do see the market change, and I have to wonder, since we really haven't gotten too many $80 games announced outside of Microsoft, if Mario Kart World, most of them have been sold via the bundle and not on their own, so therefore maybe the $80 game's not working right now, and we're not going to see as many kind of thing. But yeah, as a capitalist, it does piss me off when people lose their jobs, when companies are still highly profitable, but they don't hit projections. That was the thing. I managed a jewelry store in a past life, kind of thing, and I was always get annoyed with my goals for the day, because it would be like what we sold on that day the year before, plus I think 20% or 30%, and it's like sometimes like I'd be on a random Tuesday, having a huge goal to make, and it's like the year before was like a Saturday before a holiday or some shit like that. It's like, yeah, it's gonna be a lot of foot traffic, a lot of people buying on that Saturday, but now you want me to make not only that much money that I made on a Saturday, but 20% more, and you want me to do it on Tuesday? It really doesn't make sense. It's like these arbitrary goals that companies set and arbitrary deadlines and things like that. They're just ridiculous. And it does ruin the hobby of gaming to a sense, because I know a lot of the games that I'm getting aren't something made with love and care, that like somebody had an idea and they got a team together and they made this dream, like this idea a reality, and sold it to the masses. Like Expedition 33, Clair Obscura Expedition 33 is a perfect example of that. A small, I don't want to say indie team, because it was a lot of ex-Ubisoft employees and I think ex-Ubisoft executives too. So they knew what they were doing. I wouldn't really call them indie, more like Splinter kind of thing. So it's not like the little engine that could, but they had this idea for a game and a story, and you just saw it when you played it. I mean, it's kind of like the same thing when you play a Kojima game, especially like, and I'm getting Death Stranding 2 eventually. Like I'm a huge Kojima fan. I so much on my backlog, and I know Death Stranding is going to be a distraction. I'm going to get through some of my backlog, then I'm going to get Death Stranding to play it. And also, I'm kind of putting Death Stranding off because I want Metal Gear Solid Delta, and it comes out later this month, and I know I'm zeroing in on that when it comes out. Plus, I'm actually saving Death Stranding for when the new baby's born, because much like when Bowie was born, when Death Stranding 1 came out, those sleepless nights when the baby wakes me up and I can't go back to sleep and things like that, Death Stranding was always like soothing to me. So I would just go to at my old house, my basement, and play Death Stranding for a couple hours, like 2 in the morning to like 6 in the morning, kind of thing like that. So I'm kind of saving buying Death Stranding till the fall when the new baby's born. So I have that. It's like the baby wakes me and mom up, and they go back to sleep, and I'm just tossing and turning. I'll just quietly slide out of bed, come up here to the office, play some Death Stranding, build some roads, deliver some packages, and really enjoy myself with that game. So I'm kind of saving it, and I'll tell you one thing, there'll be definitely like 2-3 a.m. streams for that game, so that I at least have people keeping me company while I'm being an insomniac. So that's enough baby and Death Stranding 2 talk for now. Back on the subject of hand of, companies chasing ever-growing profits, just an evergreen, ever-black profit margin kind of thing, and no profit is too large. Like it can always be bigger. It can always be bigger, and it's one of those things. Like, generally speaking, if a company was profitable, they would hire more people and not fire people. Now, because they want more profits, they're laying people off. And generally speaking, consumer-wise, if a company was profitable, we might not necessarily expect a discount per se, but we could expect at least prices to stay the same. But that's not the way it is now. Like, with this chasing profits, we've seen the PlayStation 5 get a price hike twice now. I don't think either price hike affected the US, because I got my PS5 in like year 2 or 3 before they announced price hikes. So I haven't paid that much attention to it. But yeah, they've raised the price at least in other territories at least twice. Xbox is raising the Series S and Series X price this coming fall if they haven't done it already. And in case you didn't know from the topic again, this recording is July 2nd, 2025. So they're talking about raising the price. We haven't really seen a discount for the Nintendo Switch. That is 7, almost 8 years old, and it hasn't gone down in price. Back in the 90s, 2000s, when a system had been out for so many years, you'd get a refresh usually, and the refresh might still be at that retail price. And the older model would get a discounted price. Like, I remember GameCubes going as low as $50, and most systems would drop below $99.90 or to like $99.99, and we'd get these steeply discounted systems and steeply discounted games. And if you didn't have a system, you could pick it up inexpensively, either new or used. And like, if you needed a backlog of games, you get those really cheap. Like, if it's a game you missed on new release, you could go back and pick it up for like $10-15. I remember Nintendo, the Million Sellers Club. I don't know if a game hit 1 million in sales, Nintendo would automatically drop it down, but they would drop it down. Once it had that like platinum player's choice, it gets dropped down to $20. Nintendo doesn't discount games anymore. Every once in a while we get creepy babies in the background. Every once in a while we get Black Friday sales where it goes from $59.99 to $39.99 if we're lucky, and some other stores will do even bigger discounts. But Nintendo as a whole, we don't see them drop the prices that much on their systems. And speaking of Nintendo, it was announced today that the Nintendo Switch Online prices in Canada are going up. Individual memberships for the base plan, 1 month is going from $4.99 Canadian to $5.99, 3 months $9.99 to $11.99 Canadian. And I did do US price comparisons for these higher tiers, An annual membership is going from $24.99 to $29.99. Just to put that in perspective of the American market, we pay $19.99 for an annual plan. So the Canadian plan, if you convert it to American dollars, has gone from $18.39 to $22.07. The family membership has gone from $44.99 Canadian to $49.99 Canadian. That has gone, and if you look at it in U.S. dollars, that's $33 to $36. The U.S. pays $34.99. As far as the expansion pack, it's gone from $63.99 to $69.99, which is raised from $47 to $51. The U.S. pays $49.99. 12-month family membership, $99.99 to $109.99, which is $73.57 to $80.93. The U.S. pays $79.99. So basically, these price hikes, when you convert the Canadian dollars to U.S. dollars, is kind of bringing North America kind of on the same, plane as far as what we're being charged by Nintendo. So basically, Canada, they've been getting a couple dollar discount, and now that discount's kind of gone away to where they're paying on most plans like $2 more than in the U.S. Some of them they're only paying 94 cents more. Kind of thing. So, and then, conversion rates fluctuate. So these could be very even next week, kind of thing like that. So these price increases, I think, is just to kind of make North America even across the board. You having fun back there, buddy? But they did talk about price adjustments for Switch ones, the OLED, the Lite, the original Switch. So those could be getting a price hike. I don't think they actually said the price was going up. They said price adjustments. So it's possible they could be, coming in at a lower price. Let's see how much a Switch costs in Canada real quick. And then we can do like comparisons real quick. Retail price Switch 1 in Canada. All right. Of course, I'm getting all the news from that. So, we'll raise price in Canada. Such mystery price change. Okay, I'm not. I am not getting any actual prices. So let's see shopping. Let's just click there before I give up. No, it's just Walmart. So yeah, it's just giving me American retailers. I would imagine, and I'm not gonna don't like say this is gonna happen. I would imagine the Switch retail price is pretty similar to that in the US, and maybe if they increase the price, it's going to bring it in line like Switch Online. I don't know. I'm not defending Nintendo here, but I could see where they want to make the market kind of the same, because that's what they kind of did with Japan. Considering the yen is so bad, they made a Japanese only Switch at a reasonably priced for the yen, but it only plays in Japanese. And if you want an international version, it would be the same price as it is in America. And that's just kind of, they did kind of learn a lesson from right after the pandemic and Japan reopened, how the yen was so bad that a lot of Westerners either ordered from Amazon in Japan, or they just went over to Japan themselves and bought a bunch of Switches and resold them in America because they're region free. And in all honesty, I'm not gonna lie to you. When I was over in Japan in 2023, because the yen was so bad, Bowie says hi. The yen was so bad, my buddy Keenan and I, we really thought about buying a bunch of Switches and bringing them over to the U.S. and reselling them. We'd probably, I think, when I did the math, we'd make about $100 profit on each system, kind of thing like that. We ended up not doing it. But yeah, it was definitely a thought that crossed our mind. We thought, man, we buy like 10 Switches, we paid for our trip, kind of thing like that. So I think it was just Japan trying to stop that. So I think, in a sense, to kind of bring North America to one price point, that's what they're doing with Nintendo Switch Online. And maybe they're going to do the same with pricing the Switch. If, in Canadian dollars, it's a little bit cheaper. Because there is VCP.com. Maybe they've got, let me see if they've got Switches for sale. They're a Canadian, I think it's VCP, video games. Video Games Plus. I think this is it. Yeah, they're a Canadian store. And when I do the conversion, generally speaking, like their games are cheaper than a Nintendo Switch, or than the games here. Do they sell the system? Date. Let's go old to new. Let's see if they sell the system. They do not. So I can't make that comparison. But if you look at the games, when you see them priced in Canadian dollars, it works out to be a little less than what they are in the U.S. dollars. So maybe that's what Nintendo's trying to do. I don't know. That's just me kind of spitballing here, because I did want to look at that conversion price, because I saw a bunch of American YouTubers going up in uproar about it, and I was just like, what is that in, like, when you convert Canadian dollars to the U.S.? And don't get me wrong, Canadian fans, having a price increase, whether, for the 1 month plan it's just $1 or it's $5 for the 12-month plan, that sucks. I'm not saying, oh well, now Canada's just the same price as the U.S. blah blah blah. No, I get it. Like, if the U.S. was cheaper than Canada, I wouldn't want them to raise our prices to match your prices. So I'm not saying, oh well, they just needed to do this kind of thing. No, that is not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying I think like that is kind of like their marketing strategy for this, is just to kind of have like the regions all be about the same price, so that way you don't have American consumers going to buy from Canada, vice versa, like a lot of Westerners were doing to Japan. I think that's just Nintendo's plan, so they make the most money they possibly can, which is what businesses do. So I mean, that's just kind of like my little TED talk about investors and things like that, and trying to please investors instead of your customers. And it's not just Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft doing this. EA does it, Ubisoft does it, they all do it. Take-Two really does it. So, and I guess Bowie's saying bye now, I don't know, but they all do it. They all try to maximize their profits, and they worry more about their investors. Hold on, buddy. Oh, you're saying bye? Okay. And they worry more about their investors than they worry about their consumers. And that's why we get price hikes. That's why employees get laid off, even though they have record profits and things like that. And I get it. Some of this, I've got 4 a.m. laundry on in the background, and he just dropped his coffee. Sorry, Pim. But I get maybe some of the early layoffs in like 2022, 2023, maybe even 2024, was some of the excessive hiring a lot of companies did during the pandemic, and they're just finally letting those people go. I get that, but not all of these layoffs are that. So that's just my take on it. I think the more and more we see video game companies go public, we're going to see more layoffs. We're going to see more price hikes for games. We're going to get less content for more money, kind of thing like that. So we just got to hope for the indie studios to keep churning out games like Clair Obscura, Expedition 33, and Stardew Valley, just really fun games that we love to play. Hades is another one, just games we really like to play, and they don't answer to investors, they answer to us, the consumer. And that way, we'll still have more fun games to play and everything like that. But that's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you guys think about these recent price hikes and layoffs and things like that. Let me know in the comments below. And if anybody who got laid off, if you're watching this, I'm really sorry you got laid off. That sucks. And hopefully you land on your feet, you find a job with another company, or maybe we get a collaborative, some of these laid off folks, they form their own companies, and we get some more awesome indie games. But that's my take for now. Bowie's saying bye. I'm saying bye. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And Bowie, will we see him in the next video?
Yeah.
All right, tell him bye.
Bye. Subscribe.
Subscribe. There you go.